with former professional world champion Hilmer Ketty, Michael Regai with you inside Joe Louis Arena in Detroit. You just saw a good look of our next competitors, 139-pound classification, the light welterweights. David Díaz out of Chicago, Illinois from the USA against Oleg Saitov of Russia. Díaz, another one of the impressive performers in Roosevelt Sanders' squad, another national Golden Gloves champ, but going up against a young man that's, as we'll see when they get toe-to-toe, Hilmer and Oleg Saitov with some size and some reach on David Díaz out of Chicago.
Yeah, Díaz, you can tell he's going to have he's got to have a lot of experience, and he's got to be very good. In those national tournaments, you run into a lot of different styles. None as similar as I'm sure they'd like to have against maybe the Russian competition. But nonetheless, there are a lot of different styles, and you have to be very good and in very good condition to win those national tournaments.
Oleg Saitov is 5'11" tall. David Díaz at but 5'7". Hilmer, when you're facing a size differential like that, what are some of the methods you could take with you into the ring to kind of counteract being outreached and outsized?
I think the main thing that a shorter fighter has to do when you're fighting against someone that's taller than you, you have to use that jab to get on the inside. You cannot just walk to your man. You have to use the jab to get on the inside. Bob and weave also use a lot of head movement.
Hilmer Ketty certainly knew how to use the jab. We'll see if David Díaz follows suit here, fighting a young man, Oleg Saitov, who stands 4 inches taller than he.
David Díaz, I can see at the beginning of this round, he's a southpaw. He's coming out, he's a southpaw. And I'm not sure if that's going to cause some problems for his Russian counterpart or not.
Díaz, as we said, part of the United States Olympic Festival and also in the National Golden Gloves in this 1993 boxing campaign. Left hand that rocks Saitov early on in the first round.
Big blows by David Díaz.
Oleg Saitov, like so many of his Russian teammates, a Russian national champion, features a straight right hand, a good combination puncher. Díaz trying to work inside here in the first round and explore some openings. Slipping that wild left hand did Díaz by Saitov.
Good uppercut there by Saitov.
Díaz on the attack, trying to get inside, find some openings against a taller opponent. Can you work the body, Hilmer, if you get in tight, even though you certainly are outsized?
Yeah, I think that's one thing that Díaz is going to have to do. He's going to have to get on the inside and work that body.
We're in round one. This is 3 rounds, as are all on our card here tonight out of Joe Louis Arena.
I tell you, surprisingly, Saitov, he's working the body more than Díaz so far in this fight. Díaz is pretty much working the right hook to the head. He's trying to land that big hook.
David Díaz now gets Saitov backpedaling and running away from it. Walked into a straight left hand.
Yes, he did. Díaz caught him with a left hook as Saitov was walking in.
David Díaz coming out full of emotion, trying to take the attack to Oleg Saitov here in the opening round of this contest at 139 pounds, the light welterweights.
He's certainly been more aggressive in this round. I think Saitov is, though, picking his punches. He looks to be the more experienced of the two, and he's sitting back and he's picking his punches, taking a half step back, countering, doing a lot of the more experienced things.
Leading with the right hand is Saitov, and then following up with that left cross. We'll be back to Joe Louis Arena in Detroit for round 2 of the 139-pound competition in a moment. Let's take a look at this opening round as David Díaz went on the attack early. That was a solid left hand, Hilmer Ketty.
Beautiful left hand, and that's where he was more effective. Early in the round, he was so much more effective with those round, looping left hand and left hooks.
There's where Oleg Saitov walked into a straight left hand.
Yeah. It looks like Díaz kind of returned the favor and walked into one himself.
Well, that's right, he did. David Díaz, maybe a little bit, we should say, unorthodox. Certainly not a glider and slider around the ring. Leading with that left hand. Having another left hand slipped by Oleg Saitov.
I tell you, the Russians very seldom move straight back, though. They're always moving laterally. You saw right there. He moved out with a left hook. He moved to his left and shot a left hook at the same time. Their main thing is to move laterally, which is what they learned from the United States, actually.
It's a heck of an attribute, heck of a weapon when you can flick out that left as you're on the move and have it score.
It does. The left jab or the right jab, the lead jab does so much for a fighter. It sets up punches. It also scores for him. And the main thing, as I said, it just sets up so many things. Good right hand here.
Oleg Saitov, 5'11" tall, with about a 4-inch height advantage over David Díaz. Chicago, Illinois, Steinmetz High School. David Díaz bringing the colors of the Windy City here into Motown tonight.
David Díaz has to get slower. He's standing a little too straight up right now. He has to get low, use the left jab to get on the inside, and then work the body once he gets on the inside. But if he stays on the outside like that, I'll tell you, Saitov is just going to pick him apart.
Díaz again trying to weigh it in. We're halfway through round number 2. These are the 139-pounders, the light and welterweight classification. Excellent combination that scored. It connected from Oleg Saitov.
And that's what Saitov is able to do if he's left on the outside undaunted. If Díaz gets on the inside and really rough him up, use the left jab to get on the inside and work the body once he gets on the inside, Saitov will not be successful with those exchanges.
David Díaz now trying to work his way off the ropes against Oleg Saitov. Less than 60 now left in round number 2.
There's Díaz again. He's standing on the outside, just a little too low. He's standing too straight up. I think he needs to get lower, start bobbing and weaving to get on the inside. Also use the left jab to get on the inside. But he's got to do something to break the defense of Oleg Saitov.
Saitov has scored with the more impressive arsenal of offense here through close to 2 rounds now of this contest.
Every time Díaz come in, Saitov just takes a half step back and he counters with a left jab or right hand.
We'll be back for round 3 of the light welterweight 139-pounders after this. Talked about how very technically smart the Russians are, Hilmer Kenty. We see it right here as Oleg Saitov goes to work.
Yeah, look at the lead right hand. He had been shooting the right jab for a long time. That time he came out with a lead left hand, which pretty much confused David Díaz.
That's Díaz now, round 3. Probably going to need a very sweet round and a flurry here to do some damage and maybe change the minds of the judges ringside. And on the attack goes Díaz. Didn't really connect with anything substantial, but at least forcing the issue.
Yeah, he's going to have a big round, and he knows that. But he's going to have to do this for 3 minutes of the round. He can't just do this for 1 minute of the round. Because if he does and he tires out, I'll tell you, this Russian will pick him apart later on in the round. You know this Russian is in good condition, and that's what he's actually doing. He's trying to make Díaz use up his energy so he can come back, Saitov can come back later on in the fight.
As you've said throughout the course, Hilmer Kenty, the experience factor is one that the Russians certainly have in their stable, as all their fighters know their way around the ring and have been in this fight game for the better part of their youth.
Yeah, the other thing is they are all champions. They're all national champions, either national champions or European champions. And a lot of our guys have never won the national championships. So we don't really have our best team, but they're getting a good chance to get in this type of competition.
It's an opportunity. They'll earn their spurs, certainly going against the caliber of competition they are on this Russian squad. David Díaz in the third round, trying to go on the attack, be the aggressor, get something happening here. As we're halfway through this third against Oleg Saitov, 5'11", very technically sound boxer for Russia.
Yes, he is. That's the word for Saitov. He's technically sound. He knows exactly what to do. Look at that. He moves out. He knows how to get around his opponent.
Except for maybe that first round when Díaz led with a right and then came with a nice left hook. He hadn't really been able to score substantially since.
Yeah, and I really do. I think he caught Saitov pretty much off balance in that early part of the first round. But I tell you, Díaz was very effective in that first round.
Inside 60 seconds left now in the third and final round. Light welterweights, 139-pounders, David Díaz from the USA and Oleg Saitov out of Russia.
I'm sure all these guys will watch the films of these fights, and they'll be able to see where they made their mistakes or what they can do next time to combat their Russian counterparts.
David Díaz heard it from the crowd here in downtown Detroit, although, quite honestly, his shots were pretty much glancing and got picked off by Oleg Saitov.
Yeah, he's throwing big shots, but Saitov is pretty much blocking all up. You can tell this Russian Saitov, he knows his way around the ring. He's got a lot of experience.
Relentless in his pursuit. That is it. You hear the bell. 9 minutes through. Oleg Saitov, extremely impressive. The 139-pound light welterweight Russian against the USA's David Díaz. Will await the decision from the judges. However, it was carried pretty much in its entirety by Oleg Saitov.
Yeah, it looks like Saitov pretty much figured David Díaz out early in the first round, and he sort of just went with that. He knew exactly what to do, and he did it for what, at least 2.5 rounds.
Sure.
I pretty much gave David Díaz the early part of the first round, but for the rest of the fight, it was all Saitov.
Well, as we await the judge's decision, Hilmer, we just touched on a moment ago, though, these young men from the USA gaining experience, and of course, and they all have their eyes on the potential of Olympic competition. You went through that, the Olympic trials back in 1976, and it's grueling, it's arduous, and I guess it certainly makes a man out of you in a lot of respects in a big hurry, doesn't it?
Right, it certainly does. And you gain a lot of experience in a hurry, especially fighting against some of the foreign fighters, because you fight against styles that you've actually never seen before, never actually conversed with before. So it's a lot of experience whether you win or lose. It's always much nicer to win, but you always gain the experience whether you win or lose, and probably even more if you lose. And these guys, I'm sure they'll look at the tapes after these fights are over, and they'll find things that they did wrong, and they will go back to the gym, and they will find out how to combat these Russian opponents.
You personally, were you able to, as you said, as you looked at things and after you went through the experience, were you able to take things away from that and say, hey, maybe I use this, use that, take a little bit of this and that and make myself a much more proficient fighter? Yeah,
you always look at it after the fight and you always say to yourself, I don't understand why I did not figure that out.
Ladies and gentlemen, your winner on a 3-0 decision in the red corner from Russia, Oleg Saitov. Saitov, your winner.
Well, certainly no surprise there. Oleg Saitov, your winner, 3-0, dominated except for the early, very, very early, within 30 seconds, first round early, David Díaz, one and only flurry of the fight.
Yeah, I just think he was so effective in that fight in boxing, David Díaz.
There's more to come. The USA and Russia going after each other from Joe Louis Arena in downtown Detroit when we return.